What up, witches? I have been planning on redoing my Book of Shadow pages, or just in general changing it to a whole new book, so I thought I'd just show the process a little bit. The old Book of Shadows I didn't get very far into because I realized very quickly that it's not the type of format that I wanted to keep it in. It's basically this book right here. I liked it because the pages are toned. So that was very nice to me that they were like pre-toned, and I like the feel of them. It's like a brown paper bag, kind of, a little bit thicker though. So I like the feel of this. One thing I didn't like was that if I wanted to move things around, or if I wanted to change the placement of something, anything like that, it's kind of permanent because this is a bound book and there's not much I can do about what I want to change inside of it. It's also a very small book, so I wasn't able to get things as big as I wanted, and I don't know, it didn't really work for me what I wanted it to work for. This is essentially the layout I go for. When I do my pages, I have the title of whatever, like if I'm doing my herb pages, I have the title, which is what I'm going to be doing. So I have the title of the herb, well, the name of the herb, and then I have the folk names that it goes by, powers, magical uses, and then medical uses, because the medical uses are usually really long and full. So I put that at the bottom just so I can add anything else I want. And then I always have just a drawing of what the herb actually looks like. And that's a very basic setup. I'm pretty sure most people's pages are set up like that. I think I even got the setup of like Pinterest or something. So that's where I got that set up from. But I'm wanting to do it digitally now. I don't want to like handwrite them anymore. Even though handwriting is good, it helps you remember stuff more. Typing is probably just as good, I think. So my plan is to do basically the same thing that I do here, which is this basic layout, but I want to do it digitally. I am still going to be doing the drawings. I'm going to hand draw them, and then I'm going to scan that page in, and that will serve as the drawing for the herb pages that I'm going to be doing. So a while ago I made this, and it's basically just a regular old binder I had lying around, and I gave it this like faux leather feel, or old vintage worn look to it. And this is what I'm going to be using to put all of my new pages in. And I wanted to go with a binder because I want to be able to move things around freely as I want. And then I also want to be able to put the pages in like with the little page protectors, which I don't have. I need to buy some of those. Even though I'm going to be doing my first page today, I don't have those, so I need to buy some of those. But either way, this is what I want to use currently. It also can hold a lot more. I don't know, it seems like it will be much easier to use this versus this, even though this is small and like pocket size. I'll probably still use this for other things, or maybe for like my first stages of it, like if I want to see what a layout will look like. I don't know, we'll see. I still do like this book because I do like the toned pages in it, so this is still useful to me, just not for all of my herbs, I guess. Like this will be where I keep all the herbs and stuff that I want to put. So this is what I'm going with. I was gonna go with sage as my first drawing until I remembered that I actually had some like drawings that I already did, because I was planning to do this for a while. So I was drawing some of the herbs that I wanted to put it in, just pre-drawing them, so that way when I'm ready to ink and put them in there, they'll be ready to go. So I do have a couple of pages of herb drawings that are ready to be inked and put into the book. So I have sage and rosemary, mint, and cedar on this one. And then I just a couple of more of these pages of herbs that I have. So what I want to do, I want to start from scratch. So I don't want to draw any of the herbs that I currently have drawn out already. And I have 4 pages of them, probably about 15 or so herbs on these. So I'm going to find a new one so that way we can start from the beginning and do it all together, instead of me having some ready and you not seeing part of the process. So the herb that I decided to draw was Periwinkle. That's the one I'm going to go with for the first page of this new Book of Shadows book. So for this new book, I am going to be using references from this herb book that I bought. I actually bought it on thriftbooks.com. I think it was like $6, so it was a really good deal. So I'm actually going to be using the pictures in this book and also some of the information in here. It is a little dated though, so I don't know if I'm going to go with the information in this book completely for the page. But at least for the drawing process, I need like a reference image of the herb itself. So I'm going to be going with that book for the reference image. So that way I know what I'm going to be drawing, and I'm going to be drawing it properly. If you do not have any herb books or anything like that, trust me, and you don't need them, because when I first did all the drawings in my original book, none of those did I have like book references. Mostly what I would do is I would basically just type into Google like the herb that I wanted, and then I would just either write like painting or drawing next to it. I mean, you can draw it from real life, but it's a little bit harder to draw it from real life. But if I had no choice, then I would just put the herb into Google, go to pictures, look at what it looks like, and then draw it that way. A really good resource though is if you don't, Google brings up a lot of different results. Pinterest is also a really good way to go if you want to see drawn images of it, just so you can see what the herb looks like when it's drawn. That helped me a lot when I was first doing them. Don't trace them. I mean, if you have to, go ahead. It's not like you're selling this or anything, but you know, I like to get a feel for the drawing and for the herb. So that's why I like to look at the reference and then draw out what I want the herb to look like, or what the herb looks like. Not what I want it to look like, what it actually looks like. But like I was saying, Pinterest is a really good resource from when you're trying to find reference images for things like this. For me personally, though, I am going to use this book I have. Obviously, I don't have every herb in the world in this book. So if I do need to use Google or Pinterest for something, I will use it. But for now, I am going to be using this book. I am only drawing on a little portion of the page, because if you saw my previous herb pages, the ones that I was holding up, I don't cover the whole page with one herb because they're small. I don't need a very large drawing because it doesn't need to be like super high quality, because it's not going to be that big when I print it out. It's only going to be on a regular sheet of paper, which is 8.5 by 11. So I don't need them to be super large files. So I'm just going to draw it small enough where I can fit at least 4 other herbs on the page. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just wasting this paper. So if I do another one of these, you're probably going to see a previous herb on the paper if I do another one in the series. So for this one, I'm just going to use this one side of the page in order to draw the herb that I want. Like I said, I did go with Periwinkle, and I follow the reference image pretty much to the T to what it looked like in there. I did change where the position of the flowers were, just because to me that just feels a little weird to copy the image exactly how it is. But that's just for me personally, because I do draw and paint and stuff like outside of drawing for my Book of Shadows, so I don't like to copy things exactly the way they are. But that's just my own personal issue, and if this is for your personal Book of Shadows and you're not selling this to anyone, you're not selling this print to anyone, you're not trying to claim that it's your image, then who cares? Freaking trace it if you want to, take a picture of it, like do whatever you want. Like, it's for your own personal use, so it doesn't matter. So once I'm done with the drawing portion of it, I do want to ink it afterwards. And once that's all inked and ready to go, and there's very little other markings on it, I scan it into my computer. In case you're wondering what settings I use, I make sure it's on photo and that it's 600 DPI. That's just what I scan everything in it. So that's just my go-to. I go to 600 DPI. Once it's scanned in on my computer, I then mess with the levels of like saturation and shadow and contrast and all of that, just because I want it to be as stark and white black as it can get. I'm not entirely sure yet if I'm still going to leave it all black and white or if I'm going to color it in. If it doesn't turn out the way that I want, like if the color doesn't turn out the way I'm thinking in my mind, I could always just hand paint it and then rescan it in. But in my mind, I'm thinking I'm either going to leave it black and white on the page, and if it doesn't look good to me, then I might try to digitally add in the color, which will be pretty easy because I can just use the paint bucket tool and drop the color where I want it to be. So once I have my picture pretty much edited to where I want it to be, and cropped and everything and ready to go, I'm just going to open up Word and I'm going to start to fill out what I want my page to look like. Now, this is very important when it comes to filling it out. You need to pick fonts that you know you're going to like, because you want them to you don't want your fonts all over the place, like you don't want regular font and then like a crazy indescriptive like script for like the words. So I already had in my mind what I wanted for the bigger letters. It was the smaller ones, like the detailed ones, that I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to use. But for my big letters, I am using, I think it's called like Johnny Boy, and then my smaller ones I'm using like Jasmine or something like that. That's what I chose. So I like the way the big ones look. I just like the style that it's in. I do believe that that I downloaded this one from 100freefonts.com. I don't think this one is already on Word when you get it. Now, when it comes to the actual information part of this, as I said, I have the title, and then I have the folk names, the magical uses, the medical uses. And if you're wondering where I get this information from, for the medical uses, and for sometimes the information overlaps in my books, where some of them are medical and magical for the herb books I have. But essentially for the medical uses and the things like that, I do use the reference books that I have, the ones that I currently just have these 3 right here. I believe I have another one, I just don't know where it is. I got all these off of thrift books except for the African Holistic one. My cousin gave me that one, and it's actually not mine. I need to give it back at some point. But these are the books that I'm going to be using for the references from when it comes to like the medical stuff, and sometimes it overlaps into the magical stuff, but essentially for the magic portion of it, I am going to be using either Pinterest or like Googling different apothecary sites that will help me out with this. And you always, when you're using Pinterest, you always want to double check that the information on there is correct, because a lot of people will just put random crap on there, and you need to just make sure that the information you're using is real information and not just a bunch of garbage, because that happens a lot on Pinterest, and not just in this community, with a lot of other stuff, especially with the do-it-yourself stuff. A lot of it is just lies, a bunch of lies. So make sure you're double checking your information if you're getting it directly from Pinterest and it's not coming from a reputable source. Once I had all of my information filled out, it was time to put my image into it, and I just played around with the sizing of it for a little while until it got to where I wanted it to be. I also decided to remove the background. If you need to remove the background on your images for anything that has to do with Word, you don't need a third party like extra whole other program. You can do that all in Word. You can remove the background off images and resize it and recolor it and all that. I think I added more contrast to it. I took the background off, and then I had to retake the background off because it kept some of it on, or it cut off some of the stuff I wanted it to keep. Either way, you don't need some crazy fancy program to do any of this, and that's why I'm doing this version first, so you can see you really don't need a lot to get done what you need done for your pages. This is all I'm doing for it. Just this looks good to me the way it is, but I do still want to see what it looks like in color, so I am going to put that option up just in case I want it. And I do in the end actually end up going up with the color one. I think it just looks a little bit better. So for the coloring process, I just open it up in my it's like a drawing program or a picture editing program, I'm not really sure what you call it, but that one is Krita or Krita. I pronounce it Krita. Krita is a free program. You can easily download this and have no problems with it. So this is also still not something that you need like a crazy program for, because I'm not saying download Photoshop or anything like that. But in case you don't know how to use a program like this, you might have to like just work with it a little bit. I'm still not the best with this program because I'm not really good with digital art. I'd much rather do traditional art, but I'm okay enough where I can get done what I need to get done. So in this program, I'll remove the background again on this one, and then I essentially just use the paint bucket tool to drop the color where I want it, and then I just use the gradient tool to get a gradient because it looked really flat to me, and I didn't like how flat it looked at first. So I just used the gradient tool, which I just recently learned how to use like a day ago. So trust me, it's not a hard program if you work with like computer things before, but it's not like the simplest, easiest. If you really want to go simple, which I didn't show in here, but if you really want to go simple, honestly, you could open this up into any Microsoft Paint program and just use the drop bucket tool for that and fill in the color that you want, or you could just leave it black and white, because the black and white page did look good to me. I just would rather have the color page. I think the color page just makes it pop a little bit more, so that's the one I think I'm going to be going with in the end. Once I had my file looking the way that I wanted it to look, or the image looking the way I wanted it to look, I wanted to make sure I saved it as a PNG because I wanted to keep that transparent background still on there once I transferred it back into Word. So I just saved it as a PNG file and then re-put it back into Word as this new version, the colored version, and I thought it looked really good. Also, I added that border at some point, I don't remember when. I think that the pages just look a little bit more together when it has a border. Not everyone likes borders on their things. I was hoping I'd get like a leaf border, but of course Word doesn't have anything like that, so the double line border will work for me. I like the way it looks, and this is the one that I went with. I think the color one looks good. If I was going to like do it traditionally, I definitely would have left it black and white and then just like painted it after it was in my book, because I think I like that look when pages are like a little crinkled because you handle them and you painted them and stuff like that. But I decided to go with the digital version for this one, at least. I might not do that for all of them. I did print this out and I did use toned paper because, like I said, I like to use toned paper in my books like this. So this toned paper I got from like Walmart for like $2. So none of the stuff that I'm using is like super sophisticated or really expensive. It's all really cheap. This was a binder I already had laying around. I covered it with paper bags, and I have this whole tutorial on how I do that, so I'll link that. But basically, this is the one I'm going for. Nothing super expensive. It's really easy to do, so anybody can do this, honestly. Even if you don't have any knowledge of a program, you can just easily leave it black and white and color it in on your own with like pencils or crayons, whatever works for you, markers. You know, you don't have to do it the way that I did it, but this is the way that I'm going to be setting up my pages. I like the way they look. I like the way it turned out, and I'm happy with it. Okay, that's it. Bye.
Yeah.